Hello everybody, Trevor here, and welcome to another Top 5 video. And for today's Top 5, we'll be discussing my top 5 characters from the Culdee Fell Mountain Railway. To those of you who are interested in the railway series, the Culdee Fell Railway is a narrow-gauge mountain rack railway located up in the mountains in the middle of Sodor. Many visitors there came to see the sights and climb the rocky slopes of the mountains. The railway was also based on the Snowdon Mountain Railway in Wales. And in case you're new to my channel, Mountain Engines was one of my favorite non-televised books from the Railway series because of its interesting characters, setting, and how a cog railway operates. But unfortunately, according to Christopher Awdry, the son of the Reverend Wilbur Awdry, this is the only time the Culdee Fell engines made a physical appearance in the Railway series due to the safety precautions and limited traffic. In other words, there are no more story ideas for it, but we do get a mention of it again in Thomas and His Friends, which was the final book in the new Railway series collection, by the way. And to be quite honest, I would have loved to see these characters appear in the TV series because they're so unique in design and have very interesting backstories and personality traits. Thankfully, we do get some mentions of it in the TV series, as well as other media such as the standard gauge versus narrow gauge promotional video back in 2012. But enough about that. Let's begin climbing this brand new top 5 video. The number 5 spot goes to Katherine the Mountain Coach. Katherine is Culdee's helpful coach and is the only one to have a name in the entire franchise. That's one reason why she's number 5. The other reason is that her wooden railway model was one of the worst forms of merchandise. At least Earl got her right. What I like about Katherine is that she's very prudent about safety and hated working with Lord Harry due to his recklessness. I know how she feels. In fact, I hate when people drive recklessly because not only is it dangerous, but it's also illegal and very scary. Katherine is also very trustworthy, smart, and warns Culdee when there's danger up ahead. Number 4. Wilfred. According to a source from the official website, Wilfred was a kind old engine who often criticizes the younger engines if they're not careful but knows when to help them out. He was also known as the musical engine because he likes to whistle as he goes up and down the steep slopes. Unfortunately, that's all we know about his personality. And to make matters worse, his only form of merchandise was a trading card. When I was a child, I was hoping that we would get an Earl or wooden railway model of him, but it never happened. And I can understand why for obvious reasons. And that's why Wilfred gets the number 4 spot. Number 3. Goddard. Goddard was the number 1 engine on the Culdee Fell Railway, and was named after King Goddard, which would explain his ignorant personality. One of the saddest and darkest moments in the Railway series was that due to a bad lookout, he tumbled all the way down the mountain and was severely damaged. Luckily, his crew and passengers were safe, but unfortunately for Goddard, the railway staff had no money to mend him, so they brought him to the back of the shed and used up all his parts to mend the other engines. In other words, he died. Now, death is quite rare when it comes to the Railway series because even though Thomas is mostly a family-friendly franchise, but like other good kids' books, films, and shows, it does have dark moments that are quite understandable. And this is no exception because Goddard was based on Lattice, who suffered the same exact fate in real life. But in my opinion, if the Mountain Engines book were to be televised, I think Goddard should have a second chance instead of being scrapped, so that way, kids won't be too traumatized by the horrific events of the original. Number 2 is Patrick. Not to be confused with Patrick the Cement Mixer from the Pack, or Patrick Star from SpongeBob SquarePants. This engine was formerly known as Lord Harry when he first came to the railway along with a few other new engines. He was notorious for his arrogance and recklessness, and would push his coach up the steep hills too fast and too roughly. And as a result, the manager put him into the sheds and took away his name. Luckily, in the next story, he redeemed himself by taking the truck up on Devil's Back to save some mountain climbers, and as a reward, he was renamed Patrick after one of the mountain climbers. The reason he's number 2 is because of his personality and a different shape than most of the other engines. He is based on Pattern from the Snowdon Mountain Railway in Wales. Hopefully, If he were to be televised, then he could remain purple just like Culdee, while the rest of the engines could have different colors so that kids can tell them apart easily. Now, before I get to my number one pick, here are some honorable mentions. The truck. She got beat out by Katherine because, like the other unnamed rolling stock, she wasn't given a name either. But still, she's very interesting looking. Ernest. He would have been number 4, and besides, he was only partially seen at the end of Danger Points. Alaric and Eric. Nothing's known about these characters other than that they are nice and quiet. Shane Dooney. He was indirectly mentioned in the foreword of the original book, and his name wasn't revealed until the Island of Sodor, Its People, History, and Railways. But hey, at least we all know what engine he was based on. And the number 1 spot goes to, and it should be obvious by now, Culdee. There are many reasons why I put Culdee as number 1 on this list. First of all, he was named after one of the mountains on Sodor. Secondly, if it wasn't for his success, then the railway wouldn't have been named after him. And most notably, he is the most merchandised character in the entire franchise in terms of the Culdee Fell Railway. If Culdee were to appear in CGI, then I think Stephen Kinman, or Kyman, where he pronounces his last name, would fit the role very well. I think he should sound similarly to his fireman Sam voice from the CGI version of that show. Or maybe he and the others could have Swiss accents instead, since they were all built in Switzerland. Now let me know in the comments section on which of these characters are your favorite. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? Oh, and I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day last month in May, because I know I have. This is Trevor Davis, signing off.